Hi everyone, thanks for joining me on another Broken Meeple video. I'm Luke Hector, and remember as always to leave a like and a comment in the video to let me know what you think. And of course, don't forget the little Patreon campaign if you want to support the channel even further. We're still going with the top 100, yep. I've realised I've only done 4 videos. Blimey, it feels like a lot longer than that. You know, we're going to try and get through these quicker, but it's a lot of work. But here, we are wrapping up the bottom half of the list, which is normally the half that people don't usually care about. Although, to be fair, the views on the last few videos are kind of proving me wrong in this respect. But yep, this is my 60 through to 51. So these are the last of the games that just couldn't quite meet the top half. They just fell slightly short. I'll give my reasons why, but then to be honest, these are all games I love, so what does it matter whether you're in the top half or the bottom half? I still think these games are fantastic, and I'm definitely going to enjoy talking about them right now. And to go through some stats, there's definitely some stable ones, but also a couple of major movers here that I've just gone down to this point, and only one debut. But no shortage of great games here, so without further ado, you know the drill.
Get on with it!
My number 60 is in a giant box behind me, and this was one of the first few games that I based my Beyond the Base Game series on. First was Abyss, this one was Role Player, which has actually risen 21 places. That's not something that's happened a lot on my list. This is one of the biggest risers, although it's not the biggest riser on my list. There's one that did slightly better than that. We'll get onto that much later. But yeah, Role Player has just gone up in my estimations, and some of that is down to just playing it more and really enjoying that dice game of like building up your roleplay character with all the D&D nostalgia and that. Some of it is the expansions, Monsters and Minions that I mentioned before. It's a fantastic expansion. It really elevates the game. Friends and Familiars basically bolts on similar stuff, but also a couple of extras there. So when you throw everything together, it's quite a mammoth-sized dice game. But I think I'm just enjoying playing it solo as well. You know, it's just good to get, right, I just want to have the ever-changing market, bunch of monsters, here's some minions, here's my character, and I'm going to try and build it. But not to say that I don't like playing it multiplayer either. I just usually have to refresh my memory of some of the rules, because once you haven't played it for a while, you've got to then find 2 expansions worth of rules, because this is one of those games that even if I'm teaching new players, I'm not that keen to separate the expansions out. I can do without the Fiends and Familiars, but you gotta have the Monsters and Minions in there. It's just like a mandatory inclusion. But I've got it all there in a kitted out folded space insert box. It's really good. I don't know. This one is weird. It's a dice game with some theme. I mean, okay, yeah, some of the bits in it, like the whole wisdom, moving your alignment cube around the card is complete mechanical. It's like got nothing to do with theme whatsoever, really. But the whole, like, that feeling of building up your D&D character does come through. You know, I'm thinking, right, well, I'm building up my warlock dragonkin or something. All right, I need pretty high intelligence, maybe a bit of charisma, not too fussed about my intelligence. I can be dumb as bricks, you know, whatever. Everyone's making fun of each other's characters. Sometimes I'm picking a die just for theme, not even for mechanical sake. You know, like, look, I know technically my dexterity doesn't need to be that high, but come on, I can't be an elf without some dex. You know, it's stuff like that comes through, and if, like me, you've played some D&D in your time, it certainly does help as well. This kicks the snot out of Sagrada. I'm sorry, Sagrada's okay, but you know, there's a way I like to play it. It seems to do well every single time. I would much rather play Role Player. My 60 from 81 is going up in the world, Role Player. My number 59 is pretty stable. It dropped 2 places, whoop-dee-doo. This one is kind of hovering around here as pretty consistent, really, although maybe it will start dropping, it's hard to tell. The main reason is that I haven't played it anywhere near as much as I have in previous years, mainly because I haven't been teaching a lot of people new games, thanks to COVID and lockdown. That's kind of had an impact. The expansion does elevate the game for me, but the expansion has made storage a bit of a pain with this one, and that is Barren Park. This is still one of my favourite, I would say possibly my favourite, I don't want to get too ahead of myself there, but yeah, it's definitely one of my favourite polyomino games. It's so simple. Yeah, okay, it could be, you know, Koala Park, it could be Dolphin Park, it could be any type of park, it doesn't matter, but it's just a simple set of rules. You know, easy enough, you just, here's your tile, cover some spaces. Did you cover symbols? They get you more tiles. Put the tiles down, try and fill your 4 park squares as quickly as you can, choose what formation you like, done. Count up the points everywhere where you see a number. The rules are so simple, but yet it's got a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of decent choices. You are racing other players, and the expansion with the monorail, which is really difficult to build up, but also the bigger tiles and those more interesting objectives, it does elevate the game further, although teaching it to new players, With the monorail, I'm not as keen, but like I say, it's not too bad. But as a gateway game, if you just get base set Barren Park, this never goes badly. I have a great time with this. I love bears, even though the theme isn't exactly strong here. I still love bears. Bears are so cool. This is none other bears! But I have used this as a teaching tool with all the Dice Portsmouth events, even with my parents, with people I've never seen a game before, and it's always gone well because people understand the whole Tetris thing. It's just a case that it'll take them a game or two to get used to the tactics and the strategy involved within. Still a solid hit, one of the best polyometers out there, Barren Park. My number 58 has risen 4 places. In fact, this section of the 10 has actually probably got more games that have risen up than in previous lists. Most of them have fallen down, but here are some of them actually rising up slowly. Oh, except for one later, that really rose up. Well, we'll get to that. This is one of the best deck builders that there is out there. You can play it mainly 2 players, but with some expansions and some added bits, you can make it 3 or 4 and do these big group battles. Not the biggest fan of that personally. I prefer to play this 2-player or solo with the rules where you can play against like this big boss. It is Star Rounds, one of the simplest ones out there. It's got some gorgeous space artwork, but the rules to it are dirt simple. It's pretty much like easier than Dominion to play. Here's your row of cards, here's your basic deck with a bunch of ships of 2 different varieties basically. Some generate money, some generate combat, kill your opponent, buy cards from the middle, 4 factions. You know, it's really dirt simple how this game works, but with the expansions included, you can get lots of different variety in the ships that you have. The 4 factions that you buy function very differently in terms of the ships that they have. Granted, I have a big box downstairs that used to be there, now it's on the shelf and on the lounge. It's a little bit big, a little bit bloated, I think. I don't even own all that there is for it, and I don't want to own all there is for it, because I think I own more than enough as it is. But I enjoy playing this on the app when it works, and I do like playing it as a 2-player introductory deck builder. But I also really like the co-op and solo mode that it has. You can go up like the big blob from outer space, or like this massive like singularity monstrosity or something, and you play against like an AI controlled boss as you're doing your usual deck building side. And I like that because it's not only quite thematic, but it's also just quite fun to do, and it allows me to play this deck builder solo, which you don't get to do often. It's really cool, it's still a solid hit. Granted, I hate the idea that you got to use the cards to, you know, show what your life force is or something. It was so good when I went to Essen in one year and bought those little plastic little dials, a bit like what Fantasy Flight does, but these were plastic dials with the artwork on them. I can't remember who was giving them out. I think it might have actually been the publisher themselves, but they were great, and believe me, they make this a breeze at that point. But that minor blemish aside, this is still a really, really good deck builder, and definitely one to consider. But, well, okay, Hero Realms can count too, but personally I prefer Star Realms to Hero Realms. They're pretty much the same game now at this point, but I'll take sci-fi space over generic fantasy any day. So if you want to get into deck building, this is definitely one you need to look for, Star Realms. So for my 57, we have the debut on this list. The one debut for this section from Czech Game Editions. This is a solo-only game, which is basically Space Invaders, the dice game. It's called Under Falling Skies.
We're losing ships, sir. What are your orders?
Increase speed, drop down, and reverse direction.
This one has you basically doing, well, as I say, Space Invaders. You've got your board with the mothership that's slowly coming down with these little plastic ships that come down in columns, and you're rolling dice to use in your various rooms in your big base, such as shooting the guns, like generating power, generating the research that you need to beat the aliens and therefore win the game. It's a fairly simple rule set, but man, does this throw some tense decisions at you. You've got to allocate your dice in a very specific way, and you're restricted in other areas, and having to decide, oh, do I take that die and thus re-roll them, or do I put that in that one even though that ship's going to move down really fast, I need to take it out later? Do I move the little miner thing across the base and get those rooms uncovered now? Can I wait till later? There's a good die for research there. Maybe I should get a move on that, because I've been kind of digging and digging and digging and not actually researching. There's a lot of great decisions in here. You've got tons of variety with the boards that offer different layouts. You can have robots that basically autopilot your rooms, which are great. Seriously, if you get robots, build them fast. but you've even got a solo campaign, which is pretty cool as well. I mean, granted, we don't care about any story, there's no real story here, but it unlocks other things that you can add to the game, which makes this one of the most variable dice games I've seen in a while, and the theme comes off pretty strong. It does feel like essentially a cross between Space Invaders and Independence Day. It's really cool. You can check out a live stream I did with Paul Grogan one time when he was teaching the game. I think I was joined by, I got a feeling, who was it? It was one of the folks from Polyhedron Collider, and you know, we played a two-player sort of like, we worked together in a game of it on one of Paul Grogan's live streams. Honestly, I'll see if I can find a clip and I'll put it up for you. But it was really good fun, really good. It got introduced me to the game, and after that, bought a copy, reviewed it, I think. Yes, I think I did it as a review earlier this year, and it's solid. It's great. If you want a solo dice game with a decent amount of theme, you can't go wrong with Under Falling Skies. My number 56 has dropped quite a bit, actually. This has dropped 29 places from 27, and it's starting to show a couple of kinks in its armor, but I still really love this game. It's just not quite like top 25 material for me anymore. And this is the only heavy economic game, as far as I can tell, that I put my stock behind. It's about the fashion industry, which is something completely different from the norm, and that's Pret-a-Porter, or Pret-a-Porter. I'm not entirely certain how the last word is pronounced. But this is from Portal Games, and it's all about building up a fashion company. So not only do you have to get your buildings and your employees that give you different abilities, but you also have to get your collection of like fashion items and prepare for a show at the end of every quarter. The different shows have different requirements, like some want you to have a big collection, a trendy collection, the best quality materials, or just be really good with your PR and social media. It's such a great thematic economic Euro though, but it's heavy and brain burning as all get out. It really does require you to do the math in some areas. It's certainly got a bit of a slightly fiddly scoring system in it, and the rules weren't pitch perfect. You know, there's a few blemishes here and there, but playing the game is still great. I mean, I'm not a big fan of economic games. You know this already. I mean, you've seen my review of Tinner's Trail and various other economic games like Brass and that. You know it's not my style. Well, maybe that's just Martin Wallace games, I don't know. But, controversial. But, you know, with this one, I don't know, the theme just draws me in. It's pretty much a heavy economic game. You place your tokens out, you get your, like, you get your employees, you get your buildings and your contracts, you pay money, get the materials, use it for the clothes, then sell them to get more money. It's economic game through and through. But that strong theme just draws me back in. I've always said, a good mechanical game will make me enjoy it. A solid theme will bring me back for the second play. At least that's sort of how it is. It's kind of Luke's unofficial lore here. But that's the thing, that if it was just a straight up mechanical dry Euro, or it was about buying and selling coal or peat, what would I care? But because it's the fashion industry, which is something different, look gorgeous on the table, great artwork, that theme draws me back in, even though it's a heavy economic game, which I normally wouldn't play. Why is it dropped? It's dropped because it is quite a long game. It certainly doesn't hit the table as often, and I have to be careful with who I play this with. If I'm playing this with people who aren't particularly like mathematically minded, the whole economic side of it can really throw them for a loop. So, and there are one or two broken combos I've had to house rule in there as well, like the investment house has got to have a restriction and stuff like that. So it's not perfect. And that's why it's fallen a bit, but this is still going to remain pretty solid in my top 100 because, as I say, for this game to rise up above my usual, not prejudice, but you know, my usual dislike of the genre, and yet give me a game that I really enjoy, that's gotta sing volumes about this one. Pret-a-Porter, number 56, it's dropped a bit, but don't worry, it's not in any danger right now. My number 55 has strangely risen 9 places. I would have expected it to have actually dropped. Slight anomaly with the list maybe, because it's been a long time since I played this one, although I have wanted to get it back to the table quite often, so maybe it's that draw. This is Cosmic Encounter. Yeah, one of Tom Vassel's favourite games. It's still one of my favourite games, but this has not seen play in a long time because of how bloated my copy is. I kind of wish I didn't buy so many expansions for it. But I need to kind of tailor it so that I've got the perfect setup and then just leave it at that for life. That would probably do me some good. But I still really enjoy this one when it does get played. And I did play somebody else's copy a while ago at a convention, but, well, no, not a convention. Oh no, at a games club night when we were in between lockdowns. But it's a solid negotiation game where everybody has an alien with some stupid wibbly special power that breaks the game in some respect.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
And everybody is attacking everybody based on a card deck. And when you are attacking someone, you can basically get allies. You ask the group saying, who wants to come help me kill this bloke? And then the other person's also saying, well, it's like, oh, hang on a minute, come on, side with me. You'll get a bonus if we survive. It's all good, you know. And it works so well with group interaction while putting a zany theme. You know, you are constantly playing cards to like screw over other players or to get in each other's way, or you know, and you're lying to each other's faces because you've got to play your cards simultaneously. So it's like, I would like to negotiate with you. Yes, we can have a planet each. Yes, yes. Psych! You know, and you know in about 2 seconds that someone's lying to you. You're gonna find out instantly. And even this can have shared victories as well. And I like going for the shared victory. Though sometimes I do get a little bit greedy, and that has worked sometimes and not in others. Where you sort of think, you know what? We could share this victory. But you know what? I don't want to. And then that sometimes results in my death or like my victory, depending on. But it generates so many laughs. It's one of the funniest negotiation games that you can play, especially with some of those powers that are just beyond ridiculous. But it's one that I just wanted to get to the table more often. I know it's weird that it's risen despite having not played it for ages, but as I say, I think it's that draw. I want to get it back to the table, and at some point I will, just time permitting. We got a couple of conventions coming up, so maybe it's time to fix that, especially with the next one that's pretty local as well. So, Cosmic Encounter, desperately looking for another play very soon at 55. My number 54 is quite a special one actually. It's dropped 16 places, so it has come down a bit, but this is the first game I ever reviewed ever. Not just on the YouTube channel, I mean ever. This was one of my first games I ever bought. You know, one of the first few games I ever played when I first started getting back into gaming. This was when I used to do written reviews, which, granted, might be a bit easier to do than YouTube reviews sometimes, but nowhere near as lucrative. But this was Flashpoint Fire Rescue. Still one of my favorite co-op games that I can own. It's still really solid. I can tailor it very easily for new players as well as experienced players just by adding in a few modules or changing up the map. But it's a wonderfully thematic co-op, because the people complain about it being too random. Okay, yes, you roll dice and the fire comes based on a random grid reference basically, but it's fire. You don't predict what fire will do. It's a really it's a dangerous thing for a reason.
Ow! Fire hot!
The prophecy will help.
So it makes thematic sense, but you play it and you get sucked into that theme as each of you plays a firefighter to go into a burning building of some description, or in some cases a submarine or a boat, or even a subway station, and go in and rescue various people. They're either unconscious or they're screaming their heads off or something. There's even a cat and a dog if you want to go rescue them. Get some of the promos and you get some weird ones like the goldfish. I mean, I just love the idea of a firefighter running out with this big bowl goldfish or something. That sounds hilarious. And some people seem to not want to rescue certain pets depending on their way of thinking. It's like, excuse me. But I really enjoy this one. As I say, the rules are dirt simple. Here's your X amount of action points. Do what you're like. Use your special ability on your firefighter. You've got a lot of different actions you can do. They cost action points. What do you want to do? And that's how I describe it to players when I'm trying to avoid being the alpha player. They will ask like, well, what do I do? What do you advise? And it's like, well, you can do this, or this. What's your choice? So I don't have to feel like I'm dictating their turn for them. I'm just telling them that here's a bunch of ideas that could all work. Put out the fire. Go take this hazardous material outside. Go rescue that child over there. Go get in the fire truck and spray the building with some fire. You know, bring the ambulance a bit closer. You know, go check out what that question mark symbol over there. Is it fake or not? All of which are useful, and they can decide how they want to play. It just works so well for new gamers. But then if you want to jump up the difficulty and complexity level, then play on a harder difficulty or play on one of the expansion maps and add in all these cool modules like multi-story buildings and all sorts of other things to get in your way. It's so solid. It's kind of a nostalgic win for me because of how long ago it was that I first got this game. Still got it. It's the same copy with expansions in the other room, now in a little crate to keep it all condensed. And compared to the other crates in that room, it's a lot more condensed than most games. I gotta give it credit for that. So Flashpoint Fire Rescue still going strong after what, 7+ years now at my 54. My number 53 was in the top 50. Barely, it was 50. Now it's 53, whatever, it's still pretty consistent. I'm not the biggest Wild West fan, I gotta admit. Carson City behind me is a Wild West themed game, but it didn't make my top 100. My favourite Western movie is probably Back to the Future 3. I know, that is sacrilege, right? I'm just not the biggest Western fan. But Western Legends on the shelf down there, though, even though it's not my favourite theme, I don't care. This is a fun sandbox game and my entry level into a Western style game. This one, play it how you like. You gotta get X amount of legendary points. Well, how are you gonna do it? I'm gonna go play poker, which is probably my favourite way to get legendary points. I'm gonna go, prospect gold. I'm gonna go shoot bandits. I'm gonna go rob the bank. I'm gonna go get the person who robbed the bank, whether it's another player or not. I'm gonna be a law official. I'm gonna be a criminal. There's all sorts of ways to do it. And when you throw in the expansion, you can do even other things like rob a train, play high stakes poker, play other games. It's just such a really good thematic sandbox, and I love the idea that I can just choose what I want to do. For thematic games, sandbox is the way to go. And I'm waiting for the Blood Money expansion to shove into there. I've got the playmat for it, which is ridiculously huge and great. I love this one. And one of my favourite things in it is actually a mechanical aspect, which still works thematically, but I just think mechanically it's so good, where all the cards that you play to do various actions are based off an actual deck. So your aces do this, your kings do this, your fives do this and that. And I just love the fact that you're playing with a normal deck of cards with special abilities. It just works so well. And granted, I usually like to win this game by getting the gambler points. So I like to go play poker and start using my cards like, what can I do? Because I love poker. I love Texas Hold'em poker as a game. And so this game allows me to just play it how I like, and I can change what I want to do on the fly. It's like, well, I was a bandit for a while, but that didn't end too well. You know what? I'm now going to be a law official. Somehow that happens. And now I'm going to chase down the bandits myself. It's so good. It's really thematic, has a lot of rules to teach up front, and certainly I do need a bit of a refresher course on it because it has been a while, but when I get the new expansion that I'm expecting, then I'll probably shove it all in and get it back to the table nice and soon. Really cool sandbox, not in the top half, but pretty close, Western Legends. My number 52 is the other big riser on this list, actually, going up 19 places from 71. It's probably mainly because I didn't get it played a lot the last time it went on this top 100, because I don't know if it was on my list 2 years ago, but it certainly was last year, obviously. But lately I've been taking it more and more often to the Dice Portsmouth Club nights when I've done it, and it's been working so well, even with players who have never seen a game before. It can almost be their introduction into that Dixit-style card mechanic, but this is Obscurio. Obscurio can do up to 8 players, which is great, because I usually find myself having to teach a lot of players at once, but I can play the book character, whatever, that's doing all the actual clue giving. That's the hardest part of the game, and I can direct everybody else through it. But all the other players have fun as they're trying to work out from my clues, hang on, so based on what he's shown us in that book there with those 2 pictures, what are you trying to point us to? Well, that's got the right colours, that's got the right theme, that's got big shiny yellow thing, that's got a flying creature, he was pointing to a bird in that one, that's what it could be. I love these picture games where you have to interpret what the other person's thinking, get inside their head. But I think it's gone up in my rankings just because, well, I get it to the table more often. This one has replaced Shadows over Camelot for me. You might remember from a previous Cole video, I actually got rid of that out of the collection. Yes, I know it's out of print and it's probably worth a packet, but to be honest, I sold it at a normal price because I don't scalp people.
Subtle.
I hate scalpers. But, I got rid of it because I think Obscurio is a better game overall. It's just really good, love the picture style mechanic, it works great, even new players can get into it, and as I say, I can deal with it up to 8 players and do a big group. Yes, it's hard as nails. If you thought Mysterium was too easy, play Obscurio, because it will kick your rear end on a regular basis, because 90% of the time you're going to lose even on beginner level. It's not an easy game, but having a traitor mechanic involved where they get to do a little bit, it's not too complicated for them, so like a brand new player can easily be the traitor and still do well. I've seen some fantastic traitors in my time for staying hidden and picking the right cards. It's such a good one. But I would play this on either side of the coin, whether I was the book giving the clues or vice versa. It's just a really really solid game in that Dixit style lineup, and I think just because it's being brought out more often and it's getting the plays it deserves, it's risen up my list. You know, not quite to the top half, but who knows, maybe it could continue on this trend, even though it probably will never see an expansion ever, although frankly, doesn't really need an expansion. I think it's pretty good as it is as an open shut case game. So 52, Obscurio, doing nicely. My number 51 just can't catch a break. I don't know if this ever appeared in the top half of my list, but last year it was 52, now it's 51. It has gone up a spot, but it's kind of like, please let me into the top half, please, 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 please. And yet it can't manage. But that's just because there's a lot of other really, really good games I love. I still think this is one of the best games in existence. I've got a giant crate there to store it all. I've got it on my wall in various respects. Yes, of course, it's Ticket to Ride. Some people are like crazy about trying to diss this game like crazy, like the whole Catan thing of like, oh, well, it's now popular to hate on Ticket to Ride. No, Ticket to Ride is still fantastic, and I will still play any map that you throw in front of me. Though saying that, I'm a little bit bored with USA and Europe by this point. I much prefer to play Ticket to Ride with an expansion map of some description, you know, or even one of the other base sets like Germany or Nordic countries. But this is my dad's favorite game. We come home, I bring home a couple of other maps and we get good variety there. I like the little mini maps that you can get that you can play in like 15 minutes. It's ridiculous, but this game is still really cool. I wouldn't put it on my wall if I didn't have a great liking for it. In fact, I've caused enough controversy at times because I've always stated that this should be the #1 game on Board Game Geek. What? Yeah, I'm not joking, people. Seriously. 2004 this came out, right? And it got a Spiel des Jahres award. It is one of the best-selling games that exists. It's basically a moneymaker, an evergreen for Days of Wonder. It has got more people into the board game hobby, I think, than any other board game that exists from the modern lineup. Anybody can play it and enjoy it, whether you're a new gamer, a gateway gamer, next step gamer, light gamer, medium gamer, even a heavy gamer. Anybody can play a Ticket to Ride map and enjoy it. Regardless if it means that they've got to play a specific map, they will still find one that they like. And even though it's about trains, I don't care, because frankly the game could be rethemed to anything, but still, it doesn't matter that it's basically trains. I still think it's one of the best lightweight games that exists for the hobby as a whole. Yes, okay, it's not my #1 of all time, but I feel it should be higher up on the board game rankings. I mean, I can't recall if this is in the top 100 on Board Game Geek, and if not, why not? But honestly, the fact that we're giving the top 10 of Board Game Geek to giant games like Gloomhaven and Brass and all these other games that are literally for a very niche market of heavy gamers, no, I'm sorry. Ticket to Ride, #1. Screw you, Gloomhaven, alright? You know, woo, controversy there. But yeah, that's just the way I feel. Solid. Do I need to explain anything else? If you're watching this video, you know what Ticket to Ride is. 52, now 51. Will it ever make the top half of the list? Maybe it has it in past years and I can't recall, but as I say, still in my collection going strong. Otherwise I wouldn't have a giant crate to hold the thing. So yeah, Ticket to Ride, still fantastic. Whew, and in case I haven't enraged the internet there with my little rant about the Board Game Geek top 10, you know, that's another 10, and that wraps up the bottom half of the top 100. So we are getting into the creme de la creme games from this point on. Yeah, and like I say, I love every single game on the top 100, but for a while now, we've been on games that I rank 9 out of 10. You know, as we get into the top 50, we're continuing with that whole 9 front, but we're going to get started into games that I rate a 10 out of 10. Like, these are legendary games that I think are the benchmark for their genre, their theme, the publisher, the designer, whatever. You know, you ask them about, like, what's the best thing from X, whatever, and it's like, I can go, this game. These games are the best, you know, these are the ones I hold in such high regard. And going back to the tablet, in fact, I mean, what have we got for the next list? Again, still only one debut and the other games you've seen before, but they've been shaking around a bit, and then after that we've got mostly stuff you've seen before, but you wait till we get to the top 20. A debut in the 20 to 11, and then 3 debuts coming up in the top 10. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to come. So I guess I better get on with editing this one because you don't like it if I go away for too long without putting one of these out. And well, like I say, I can only thank you for that. So thanks for putting up with these, and if you like what you see, please remember to leave a like and a comment. It means the world to me to know you appreciate the content. Don't forget that the channel is officially sponsored by Zatu.co.uk, and if you want to check out some more content on the channel, you can check out the live Q&A that I did a short while ago, or perhaps you'd like a preview of an upcoming Kickstarter game, Scandalo, that you can check out right there. So take care, and remember, as always, it's only a game. Bye for now, everyone.